name is Lucy Sanchez, and today I'll be talking about the 5 different kinds of adjustments or assists, as we like to call them, that we have available as yoga instructors. The first one would be our presence. Then we have our verbal, our physical, press points, and modeling. Those are 5, right? 5. The first one is our presence. Is one of the most important ones that we have available as instructors. That meaning that the students come to you, to the studio, and by you being there, it's a great assist because your presence without even saying anything makes them come back into their practice, makes them being present in their mat, in their own little mat space, as we like to call it too. And this is Diane. She'll be helping me out during the video and our little lecture. The presence is also very important because sometimes you just by being there makes the student come back into their practice if they have any kinds of distractions. By you not saying anything, if you just stand next to them, they'll even try harder. They'll come back to their practice. They'll push themselves, and just by you being there, that's an assist. Sometimes you don't have to do anything, no hands, no cues, and you just stand there, you encourage them, and it makes them feel good. I'll start explaining a little bit more as we go through and a little bit of demonstrating. I'm just talking you through a little bit more of each one, and then we'll go deeper as the class goes along. The verbal ones, meaning it's the one that you're going to use the most probably in your class, especially as life power teachers. We don't model at all, most likely. We just use our words, and we have to be very careful with our cueings. We want to be clear, understandable, and not too wordy either, just to the point where your student can get there without making them confused or anything. So your verbal cues are one of the most important things that we have as instructors. So we have to be very aware of how we express ourselves during our class. Like I said, the modeling, yes, we use it, but in Life Power, we don't do a full hour of modeling. We're off mat. And modeling, usually we use it as whenever we're introducing tricky transitions, whenever you see someone struggling, you go next to them and kind of like show them where you want their bodies to go. And sometimes by them seeing you, it helps them understand more than when the words are kind of like tricky or confusing. Press points, it's another one. That's usually whenever we walk around students and whenever we just put our hands very slightly or very lightly in their bodies. Sometimes just a simple adjustment, a simple opening, without you getting your hands very deeper into like a hands-on or what we call a physical. Physical meaning you're getting in there, you're making their sensation of the pose deeper. You're using more of your hands, sometimes even your body weight, to get them deeper into the pose. And lastly, we have our physical, verbal, press points, presence, and modeling. Yes, those are our 5. So I'm going to get into a little bit of a mini class so you can see how each and every one can come into your practice or as instructor. Most of the times they go hand in hand with each other. Sometimes the modeling will go along with the verbal and the physical will go along with modeling and vice versa. And you'll see along this lecture how they always go most of the time hand in hand, not all the time. But let's just start in one of our most important ones, like I mentioned, our presence. So Diane here's going to start in a comfortable seated position. Close your eyes. Take a deep inhale. Exhale through your mouth. Usually when we start a class, you give them about 3 to 5 minutes to arrive into their practice. So by you giving that space, it's a great assist as instructors. You're facilitating their sacred space. You're facilitating silence. You let them arrive into their practice, into their mat, and leave all the distractions outside that door. That's why a lot of students sometimes come into the studio. They can't have this in their house. It's harder to find someone to give them that space. So your presence, you being there and giving them that opportunity, it's an assist. Another one that could also be part of your presence would be probably logs. Logs, it's a great way for your presence to come in as an assist. Let's say, Diane, come into your into your plank. So your hands right underneath your shoulders, your torso's parallel towards your mat, belly button towards the spine. Protract your shoulder blades, bubble your back, engage your core. So whenever you're holding them in a log, it's about, depending on your time frame during the class, it's about a couple of minutes. Sometimes you see people where they're gonna start slacking and they don't know that you're there, and suddenly, if I just by me, come in here. Sometimes I don't even have to look at her. Sometimes she'll notice that I'm here and she'll suddenly start coming up and getting better in that plank. I didn't say anything. I didn't cue her into anything. My presence just made her plank not slack. So moving into our verbal, stand up. Starting in a standing pose on top of your mat. Inhale your arms up, look up. Exhale, forward fold, hinging from your hips. Inhale, half lift, look forward. Exhale, fold, press your hands to the mat, jump or step it back, finding your plank. On your exhale, you're gonna slightly bend your elbows, pressing towards your rib cage. Go halfway through the mat. Hold it. Inhale, hover towards the top of your feet. Inhale your chest up, look up. Relax your shoulders. Press your shoulder blades together. Tuck your toes under, lift your hips up and back. I got her into that transition without even touching her or putting my hands on her. I was trying to be clear, understandable, and making slow, very slow comments in where I wanted her body to go. She didn't see me. I just cued what to do with her feet, with her toes, with her hands, how to forward fold, hinging from her hips. So those little cues made her go into each and different postures without her having to see me or see anybody else. So that would be our verbal assists. Your understandable cues, getting the student where you want them to go without them having to see you. Another one would be modeling. Modeling would be usually, like I mentioned before, either in tricky transitions or whenever you see someone lost. Let's say I'm cueing them into going into crow. So stand on top of your mat. Inhale up. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, fold. So step your feet about hip distance width apart. Bring your hips down. Press your hands down into the mat. You're in a malasana squat. So you're opening your hips a little bit wider. Your knees are on the outsides of your arms. Press your hands down on the mat. Start moving forward. Hips up. Once you're there, see if you can start squeezing your knees into your chest, into your triceps, I'm sorry. Start lifting one foot off the mat. And then the other one. So you're pressing down, you lift forward, you move forward a little bit with your toes. Shift one foot off. If you feel comfortable, look forward. Shift the other one. You got this, you're there. And her, by seeing what I was doing and what I was trying to, where I was trying to take her with your toes, you can come back. You can come back down. Sometimes whenever they're like lifting my toes, what does that mean? And whenever you're next to them and seeing them, encouraging them, even sometimes them seeing you will help them. Like, I can't do this. And you'll start noticing how it starts doing like a little chain effect, that you don't have to go through everyone's mat, because probably when you did it, you were in between mats and there were people behind you and probably people in front of you. So a lot of times you get seen. Whenever you use that modeling, make sure you use it smartly, because whenever you're modeling something, like I said, you're not going to model too much during the class, but whenever you do it, you want to do it in a smart way that it encourages and helps everybody. So that would be like right there in Crow, I did a little bit of modeling, verbal, because I was telling her what to do with her knees, how to engage, where to look. So you use the verbal, the modeling, and even your presence, because you were next to them. So that encourages it, and they, like I said, they go hand on hand with each other. Let's go into the press points. So let's start in downward dog. Press your hands, lift your hips up and back. Sometimes, whenever you don't want to get too personal with the physical, because whenever you're going into physical adjustments or assists, you want to make sure you've already established a connection or a relationship with your student of some sort of way, because I don't want to get all into her space without her probably not knowing me. She's going to be like, what is she doing? So that's when we start establishing a connection or a relationship with press points. Very slightly. Sometimes if I see this, I can just do this, pressing her down, or even the hips. Just come here, press down. Another one would be just heels down. Sometimes we see the heels very lifted and the knees a little bit bent. By you coming behind and just slightly, very slight touches, but firm, they'll know what you want them to do. Another one would be probably making sure that the whole palm is pressing down. So you, by just being here and making sure that their fingers are not up or their wrists are not coming up, just by doing little simple press points will help. You're already increasing their sensation in a pose. Another one would be inhale your leg up, right leg up, exhale, step it through, bring the left heel down, open into your warrior two, open your arms into a T, gazing over your right fingertips. We see this a lot. Okay, my verbal cues are not wrong. She opened into a T. I told her to look towards her right fingertips, but my knee just slightly moving the hips. Doing this, she'll realize that, oh, now I'm lengthening, I'm stretching, I'm engaging the arm. Sometimes you see this, just by doing that, she knows that she's pulling in opposite directions. The shoulders, just by doing this, you're helping them not shrug their shoulders towards their neck. Moving into side angle, there's another one that we always, a lot of times see, right elbow, right knee, left arm over your ear. Look up. She's looking up, her arm's over the ear. What is she doing with this arm? What I do is just lengthen. Move a little bit back, I'm out of frame. So, if she's like slagging here, she's like, well, but once I come in, lengthen her arm, she'll realize that just by doing that, she's opening her chest a little bit more. Her arm is engaged, and just by doing that little slightest of a change, the whole pose changed completely. Did it?
Yes.
Good. So easy. So that would be like press points. It's just slight touches that you let your student know where you want them to be, and kind of like start experiencing the best of each asana or pose. You can come out.
Thank you.
You can move forward and find your downward dog. Moving into physical, this is where, like I said, you're getting into their space. So you want to have established a connection or a relationship, or make sure, and you'll realize as teachers sometimes just by doing this, if someone starts shrugging their shoulders or you start getting very stiff, it means that they're not very comfortable with you getting into their space. So if by doing this, if just by doing this, I feel that she's kind of like getting stiffer, and I don't want that. So just walk away. There's no need to either talk to them or anything. Sometimes we need to be able to read their body language as instructors. And while you're cueing, you'll start realizing you're teaching. So me, by doing this, I can still talk, but I'm sensing her stiffness, like no, or sometimes even they'll like move their hips, like no, I don't think I want your hand there. So just by doing that, I'll just slowly walk away. But if I already have a relationship, if I already know this person has come to my class a couple of times, and I do this, I'm getting in here, slowly I'm getting into her hips, pulling her hips up. My whole body weight is lengthening her spine, pushing her hips up and back. This would be considered a physical assist. My whole body is almost on top of her. And people really enjoy this. Whenever they know what you're about to do, people enjoy it. Sometimes I even get called out like, hey, can you pull my hips up? Sometimes we tend to see a lot of like, whenever I do this, walk your hand back. So when I do that, it's like, you can slide it lower yourselves, like bring your hands back. Try not to move your hands. Press down. You can even tell them, or if you're more comfortable, you can even step on their hands and create that opposition. And you can even see on the video how much lengthening I'm creating. So that would be considered a really good physical assist. Another one would be right leg up and bring it parallel towards the mat into your pigeon. So your knees, your right toes behind your left wrist, right knee behind your right wrist, top of your left foot on the mat. Inhale, chest up, exhale, fold. There's different ways you can do this. If I see someone doing this, like her hip completely off or on top of the other hip, there's a way you can do this. Either you can bring a block underneath, and that's helping the student increase their sensation, but the block is a great prop to use too while assisting a student. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating her hips to be on top of the block so they don't slack towards the side. So she's still on top of her hips doing this you want to be very careful when working with the neck, the hips, and the spine. You never know what kinds of injuries, even the knees too, because you never know what kinds of injuries they won't walk in telling you their medical history. So what you want to be very careful. So right here, I'm just gonna like put pressure a little bit on the hips. My hands are on her low back, and what I'm gonna do is try to lengthen. So just what I'm doing, it's kind of like this motion through her spine, and I see that she's relaxing. She's really enjoying this. But just by creating pressure on her low back and pushing her a little bit down, believe me, sometimes the smallest touch makes a whole lot of a difference. Then I kind of switch, make sure you do the other side. Also, talking about other sides, you can come out. If you're doing one side in one person and it's a two pose, if you're doing two different legs or a pose that requires different limbs, make sure if you assisted on the right, make sure to go back to that same person and assist when you're on the left side. Sometimes I see a lot of times, or it has even happened to me, if someone comes to me and in a pigeon and it feels amazing, I go back into my downward dog, tuck your toes under, lift the hip up and back, open the hip, relax, and start finding your pigeon on your left side. So people find their pigeon, and on the back of my head as a student, I'm like, oh, that felt really good on the right side. But then if I'm doing everybody else and I don't go back to this person, her whole side is going to be probably here where she started, or if she tries to do it herself, she's going to be confused because I did it for her the first time. So you always want to make sure that if you assisted someone on one side, you want to come back and assist them on the other side, to give them that experience that you really were there. Also, this is presence. Usually in surrender or yin poses, you don't do a lot of talking. You just get them there and kind of like let them enjoy the stretching, the whole experience of it all without you talking like I am right now for the purposes of this lecture. And believe me, once you've done that, a lot of people have come after class and thank you very much for that assist. That felt amazing. And that starts creating a better and better experience for your students. It will help you create relationships too, and make your students feel comfortable while they're in your space and in your studio. You can come out. Wake up. So I think we got through them all. We went through presence, verbal, modeling, physical, and press points. Yeah. So for the purposes of this lecture, like I said, there's a lot of times where you'll see your words. You'll find yourself using a lot of them hand with each other. The only one you really want not to overdo is the modeling. Just use it whenever you feel it's necessary and when you know it's going to help more than one person too. Like I said, it helps with tricky transitions, especially like in a flow. And talking about flow, now that it comes to my mind, I get this a lot. Yes, it's easier to assist in root classes and surrender classes, maybe sometimes in Ashtanga. But I get this a lot, and people have asked me, like, how can you assist in a flow class without getting kicked in the face? Because everybody's moving at different directions, and I think once you've established sort of like your timing, you'll realize and you'll find little bits and pieces of each class where you're able to really still get there. Because sometimes I've gone to flow classes when I see the instructor hiding in the corner, and I'm like, not because it's a flow class doesn't mean that you can't get your hands on someone. You're still holding sometimes your downward dog for a couple of times. You still have your surrender part of it. And even, let's do a little bit of a demonstration of flow so you can know how you can get in there while letting the student know that you're about to help them increase kind of like their experience through a flow. So without getting kicked in the face. Stand on top of your mat. Inhale your arms up, look up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Jumpers, step it back. Vinyasa through or high to low push-up. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, downward dog. So she's going to start doing this in a loop, right? This little minute transition that we usually find throughout a flow. So start moving with your own breath. So she's starting to flow, right? Take a little bit of a step back. More. There we go. So she's moving at her own, and I'm starting to approach her, trying to find her tempo. I'm listening to her breathing. I'm seeing her movement. So this is where I know, like, what you want to do is slowly start walking or make sure they see you. And usually whenever you're approaching, they'll see you either from behind. So what I do sometimes is while she's in her downward dog, like I do this. And then she, like just like that, but she'll start moving. I'm not telling her to stop or anything like that. So, but she knows, she acknowledged that I'm here. Sometimes just by doing that, she knows I'm pressing down. And then half lift, you just do this. I'm already assisting her without not doing much, but I'm here. She knows I'm here. She feels me. She saw me. And you kind of like, I already saw how she was moving. I don't want to interrupt her practice either, so I don't want to stay there for too long. But I still want her to get that experience that I was there, that I helped her improve her upward dog and opening her chest, that I kind of like lengthen her a little bit on her downward dog. And lastly, you can finish. And lastly, also, while assisting, you want to be sure and make sure that if you're assisting, especially like in the surrender pose or whenever they're holding it for a little bit longer, stay with your student for a little bit. I see sometimes, so many times, whenever you're getting to your child's pose, I've seen this so many times whenever you're like, people on their child's pose and it's like, and it's so abruptly like, or they do this, it's like, what is that? if you're really putting an effort and thought into assisting someone, make sure you give them the time, your energy, make them feel the love. You're sharing your energy. So if I'm here, it can be the most simple assist ever. But I got here I got here slowly. I didn't abruptly came and kind of like just came into her space. It's her practice too, so I have to be respectful of that. And I know like I'm staying here for more than just half of a breath or more than a breath. That will make them the experience even better, and that they'll really feel the personal attention coming from their instructor. They'll feel noticed, and they'll make it feels nice. Sometimes you never know what a person is going through, and sometimes just putting your hands on someone makes their whole day. And you'll start realizing the more you teach, the more a simple touch can make a difference. And I think talking about assist, I think that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for Diane for being my perfect model. And that's that. We have 5 kinds of assists. Remember, it's your presence, the verbal, physical, press points, and modeling. Make sure you go through them all and make sure you get a little bit of each one in each class. One will come more than others, but they're great ways for us instructors to use. They're great tools for us to use and connect to our students and make our students have a better experience with it all. Thank you very much for joining me. Again, my name is Lucy, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.